Opening hands. Qwen3L keeps their 7-card hand, a tutor-heavy toolbox hand with explosive ramp. GPT5n keeps their 7-card hand, a equipment-driven tempo hand with early fetch disruption.
GP fans turn 1. A quiet opening as GPT5n settles in with a land and gets things underway. Passes back to Qwen3L. Qwen3L's turn 1. Qwen3L drops a Mox Diamond and rockets straight into a green sun zenith on the very first turn of the game. Passes back to GPT5n. GP5n's turn 2 with a handful of heat. 2 Stoneforge Mystics, a Batterskull, and a Cryptic Coat. GPT5n plays it cautious and passes without action. Passes back to Qwen3L. Qwen3L's turn 2. After sneaking in a point of damage with Dryad Arbor, Qwen3L holds back a hand full of gas. Elvish Reclaimer, Knight of the Reliquary, Shadow Spear, with that Mox Diamond ready to fuel something big. Passes back to GPT5n. GPT5n's turn 3. Holding 2 Stoneforge Mystics, a Batterskull, and a fistful of answers, GPT5n quietly passes without playing a land or a spell. Passes back to Qwen3L. Qwen3L's turn 3. Qwen3L holds a handful of powerful cards but keeps them close to the chest, passing without a play. Back to GPT5n.
GP5n's turn 4. With 2 Stoneforge Mystics and a Batterskull sitting in hand, GP5n spends a quiet turn doing nothing. The calm before what could be a very expensive storm. Passes back to Qwen3L.
Qwen3L's turn 4. Qwen3L drops an Elvish Reclaimer and sends the Dryad Arbor in for a point of damage, bringing GPT5n down to 18. Passes back to GPT5n. GPT5n's turn 5. GPT5n spends the turn cracking a flooded strand to set up the mana for what looks like a Stoneforge Mystic line, and with 3 copies of her in hand, that pipeline is very much open for business. Passes back to Qwen3L's turn 5. Qwen3L drops a Shadow Spear and swings uncontested with the Elvish Reclaimer and Dryad Arbor, knocking GPT5n down to 14. Passes back to GPT5.
GPT5n's turn 6. Holding 3 copies of Stoneforge Mystic and a Batterskull, but finding nothing to do with them, GPT5n passes without a play. Passes back to Qwen3L.
Qwen3L's turn 6. Qwen3L drops Knight of the Reliquary and sends the Elvish Reclaimer crashing through for 3, dropping GPT5n to 11. Passes back to GP5n. GP5n's turn 7. Sitting on a hand loaded with 4 copies of Stoneforge Mystic and a Batterskull, GPT5n does nothing. Just watches Qwen3L's board grow. Passes back to Qwen3L. Qwen3L's turn 7. Qwen3L dredges up life from the loam to reclaim some lands, then swings in uncontested with Elvish Reclaimer and Knight of the Reliquary, dropping GPT5n down to a precarious 7 life. Passes back to GPT5n.
GPT5n's turn 8. Facing a Knight of the Reliquary and a graveyard full of lands courtesy of life from the loam, GPT5n's best move is discarding a Ponder. Sitting at 7 life with 4 Stoneforge Mystics in hand and Batterskull waiting to be fetched. Passes back to Qwen.
Qwen3L's turn 8. Qwen3L sends the Elvish Reclaimer and a 4/4 Knight of the Reliquary barreling through unblocked, dropping GPT5n to a precarious 2 life while also chipping away at Dark Depths. Passes back to GPT5n. GPT5n's turn 9. Down to 2 life with Qwen3L 1 ice counter away from summoning a 20/20. GPT5n spends the turn doing nothing but discarding a Ponder to tighten up a hand loaded with Stoneforge Mystics. Passes back to Qwen3L. Qwen3L's turn 9. With GPT5n clinging to 2 life, Qwen3L sends in the whole squad. Dryad Arbor, Elvish Reclaimer, and a 4/4 Knight of the Reliquary. All unblocked, and that's all she wrote. Qwen3L wins with a full squad attack.
Dryad Arbor, Elvish Reclaimer, and a 4/4 Knight of the Reliquary, all walking in unblocked. GPT5n had already been drained to 2 life by the board and couldn't survive the final swing. Qwen3L closes at a pristine 20 life. GPT5n finishes at 2.
Folks, the story of this game was told on turn 2. Qwen3L slaps down a Mox Diamond and fires off a Green Sun Zenith on the very first turn of the game. That's Legacy doing what Legacy does. From that moment on, GPT5n was playing catch-up in a race they never quite entered. And here's the thing. GPT5n was holding the tools. 4 Stoneforge Mystics, a Batterskull, a hand full of heat. But turn after turn, nothing hit the table. Meanwhile, Qwen3L built a board, picked up life from the loam, grew a Knight of the Reliquary to a 4/4, and just walked. Qwen3L did take 27 illegal move flags to GPT5n's 17, messy on both sides, and spent over 27 minutes thinking it through, but the result speaks for itself. Sometimes the best hand in the room means nothing if you never play it.